I just look at the what's being suggested with this, right? And who has control of this information, and what do we have to do to supposedly get this free energy? You know what I mean? But actually, what you said about it is the initial reaction I had, which is that it's basically amped up way too high, right? And it's continuing the amped up version of like consumer living. And so it's basically like you're saying, yeah, we can all live the high life, high on the hog. We can all overconsume and, drive everywhere we possibly want to go and just, consume, because we're going to have this energy that's free to us, that's been suppressed by the evil oil companies. And so like you're saying, it's just basically
it's an extractive mentality,
and it's going to tell people that again, the whole global corporate way of doing things and the way of turning human beings into consumers, that can be continued, and that can be spread to everyone around the
now folks
planet.
who are into that, they'll say, well, no, the film talks talks a lot about some of the evil things that large companies have done.
Yeah,
And
it's gatekeeper stuff though. That's what that
right.
film is. Like it's controlled opposition. So it's people who are coming out. It's Alex Jones stuff, okay? And I know that's gonna
No,
really annoy a bunch
I
of people.
totally agree with you on that.
But it's okay. So basically, it's people who have kernels of the truth, right? And this movement and this group of people always has kernels of the truth. They do, and they're basically of the same systems, right? So they're critiquing certain aspects, certain arms of it, but they're basically of that system. And if you get right down to it, it probably has a lot of the same tenets, right? Which is we have to evolve, and this is how we have to evolve, and people have to raise their vibrations to this level, and this is the direction we have to go. And it's a top-down version of reality, right? Where
Exactly.
people who are privileged are basically more enlightened. They're more evolved. They just understand things better than the poor downtrodden folks. And now they're again going to be top-down, giving this information about these wonderful suppressed energy technologies. But again, it's like you have to look at whose hands this is in. You have to look at the persuasive quality that's underlying these ideas, because a lot of times it's not necessarily the ideas that are like, I think most people understand at this point the destructive nature of corporatism, the destructive nature of government for hire by the corporate system, and those types of things. What they're furthering isn't new information. Even the idea of like the alien technologies and the free energy, that isn't new information either. You know what I mean? So it's like, why are they using this information at this time? Like, what's the furthering point? What's the agenda? And again, like, I can't go right into it because I haven't seen it and whatnot. But I've seen parts
Clips
of it, and
yeah.
I've seen what surrounds it, and that's usually what I read.
What I'll use an example of what you're talking about, because folks out there who are getting into this stuff, into kind of beginning to break free from the status quo, they usually find people like Alex Jones or films like Thrive, and they go, well, wait a minute, I didn't know that Dow Chemical or whoever, this company or that company, was doing X, and this Alex Jones or the folks at Thrive or whoever, they turned me on to this. So it's hard to figure out. They're like, well, how can this not be good?
Right.
Or how can this not be the truth? And I said, well, let me use John Perkins' Confessions of Economic Hitman as I
Yes,
think he's
please.
the prime example. Everything in that book was 100% true.
Yeah.
And in fact, his chapter on petrodollar recycling, it was the most lucid and concise explanation of that that I think is out there. And I recommended it when I was running Latok. I constantly recommended that chapter in that book. If I was a professor and I was teaching a class on how all this stuff works, I would probably use that chapter. The thing is with that book is it was almost like a heat sink. So what it does is all of us folks who knew that something was wrong with the system, we all end up sitting around in our book clubs and whatnot, reading his book and discussing it and watching him on Amy Goodman. On Democracy Too Late is what I call the show. So then all the companies in that book are long gone. They've all either been, merged and into other companies and bought out or split up, or the people, all the executives, are all long gone. So we get very excited about the book, and then I remember when he was making the rounds on Amy Goodman's show and other shows like that, I was already thinking about the housing bubble and how people were going to really being hung out to dry, and yet Amy Goodman was having him on talking about economic hitmen, what economic hitmen were doing 30 years ago, and I'm like, there's economic
hitman going on right now.
Right